to me, that's the goal that I want my clients to get to, and they do get to. But how do they push through those dark moments when things feel hard?
Making a change into something that is better often requires us to come face to face with what got us to that point in the first place, that we need to make a big change.
Because you're really fighting your human nature in that moment. To give up, to go back to what was easy, comfortable, the old habits, right?
You aren't willing to be honest with yourself regarding something that needs to be fixed or needs to be changed. Well, you're not going to do anything about it, right? Because you don't see it as a problem.
Right.
Welcome everyone back to another episode of The Lighter Side of Heavy Things, a little podcast where myself, Chris Clark, is joined with my co-host here, Dwayne Horton, two therapists, kind of talking about some of these, fun different topics, things that come up for us as we meet with our clients, stuff that either we find interesting or important,
right?
I guess, to kind of explore a little bit throughout our weeks. Now, this past little while, we've kind of jumped around to different topics that we thought, been important due to the time of year, and one that's been kind of on our minds as we're getting ready to head into the new year, not quite there yet, but kind of exploring those ideas of change, right?
But I mean, I don't know, to me, change is not, it requires planning a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So
at least in an ideal situation.
In an ideal situation, right? You don't want to force on us.
Yeah.
Those are the worst changes. Or sometimes more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like changes, right now is the perfect season, right? We just came out of Thanksgiving. We're heading into Christmas, a season of change.
Right.
A season of transformation for us that will kick off the new year with goals. So having some time to plan for change really is important. And, and to me, this is one of those things where topics where I think clients often get stuck. For me, like one thing I notice my clients struggle with a little bit is the difference between a wish and a goal. When it comes to change. How would you describe that? Or do you want me to describe how I do it? Like, how would you do it?
I guess delineating between the two, a wish versus goal. I feel like a wish is kind of, a daydream sort of a thing. Like, if this could happen, this would be nice. Right. But there's little, I guess, effort necessarily put in. Whereas I feel like a goal is definitely at times more concrete or more serious, right? As there's potentially more effort. It's not just a thought. It's also, well, how do we make the thought reality?
Right. So there's planning. It's action, right? And that's exactly how I would describe it with my clients is there's a planning. And no goal is created without thought. So the power of thought and change seems to be very essential. So like what steps do you see, do you guide your clients through? Or where do you see your struggle in that process of making those things happen?
So the ideas of a client realizing or making a goal occur for them. I would say that I think one of the hardest things that I feel that I come across with my clients sometimes is that they have a hard time even sometimes identifying what the goal is. And so being able to identify what that is, where it is that they're wanting to go, what it is that they're actually wanting to achieve, I think is one of the most important places to start. Because, if they set a goal, for example, that it's something that's completely out of their control, that maybe requires someone else to make a change or for something to happen that they have no influence or power over, well, then I guess it's fine if it works out that way, but also there's nothing you can do except wait.
Right. Which also adds to what my definition of a wish and goal. A wish is something that may be out of my control, right? Whereas, like a wish, say like I wish for, I don't know, a turkey tetrazzini for dinner.
Yeah.
Right? well, I'm not cooking tonight. So
Mhm.
it's kind of up to, if my wife is cooking that or the kids or something, right? That I'm not influencing that goal directly.
You're right.
So wish is out of my hands, but a goal is something I can attain, something I could do and work toward that. Now, sometimes in every goal, there are wish parts, components, right?
Mhm.
Outside of our compound. But, and ideally, a goal is something that we all have direct influence on, right? So it
We
creates,
hope,
start
right?
with that
Yeah.
that clear picture, right?
Mhm.
I encourage clients, write it out. That sounded silly to me when I was younger. Now I'm older. I write everything out, not just to remember, but there's something in the act of doing that. It helps me delineate my thoughts, but it also helps create that clear picture. Write
Mhm.
it out. Say what I want, how I want it, and when I want it by, right?
Right.
And then it organizes the thoughts. The thoughts are a big part of it, right? If we just kind of only daydream about it, it's never going to ever happen because there's no energy,
Mhm.
right? I mean, Newton's laws of motion, right? It requires greater force than the static forces to get an object into motion, right? It requires energy input into a system. That's no different than our lives.
Mhm.
And that energy system is our thoughts. Our thoughts are where all big plans happen.
Right.
But more often than not, all big plans started with a much smaller goal than what came about, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, the idea of a computer, they thought it would be obsolete by, the year 2000 because they didn't think it would be that big.
Mhm.
And then, wait, what? We had the Y2K scare. Well, you might not be old enough. You remember that,
I
right?
remember that,
Okay,
yeah.
good. I started panicking. Like,
Nope, I remember. I
I
remember sitting there thinking, or remember hearing, all the things that were going to happen. Computers are going to blow up. Banking
Yeah.
was going to die.
Yeah, the hospital
Um,
systems will fail.
Yep.
But no, everything worked out fine. But the idea of a computer started off on a much smaller scale than what it became. Now we have AI,
Mhm.
right? So all goals will adapt and will grow. But you have to have benchmarks and energy all along the way to maintain that
Yeah.
growth.
So, I guess I'm curious for you. What are the roadblocks that you feel you run into the most when it comes to helping a client or even anyone else set a
Mhm.
goal?
Well, a goal is, like we said, first, I would agree with you 100%, set a clear goal. But in that goal needs to be a date. A date of, I want it by this,
Mhm.
right? Second, it needs energy. And it's not just like if I like say lose weight, right?
Mhm.
Be very clear about what weight we want to lose. Like, I want to lose 50 pounds by, July of 2026. Okay, great. Independence Day, July 4th.
Yeah.
Then that needs to be, here's my goal, here's my plan, right? Then the thought process needs to start from that point forward. How am I going to do it?
Mm.
So if they write it down, they put the date. I encourage my clients to review it every day, once minimum, twice ideally a day, morning and night. Review it. Say it out loud. Make it a part of your life, right? I
Mhm.
mean, people think, "Oh, this is stupid," but why? Like, I'm probably going to embarrass myself again, because I'm not a sports fan. But like, why do people are always on their phone checking the sports for their favorite teams? Because it became a part of their thought process. It's ingrained in their life.
Mm.
They're always thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so, like a path in the mountains, they carved a trail neurologically where the brain always is going to that,
Mhm.
right? And we could come up with lots of ideas why that's good. It's a good escape. It's a good this and that. But if we're going to start a new one, we need to have a goal. We got to put that same energy it took us to start looking at all the sports into the same thing for that. So controlling our thoughts.
Right.
Make sure our thoughts are all in line with that,
Mhm.
including what we're willing to eat.
Right. And you bring up a very interesting concept that I find not only is applicable with goals, but I feel like very applicable in the things that we do when we're working with clients. And that's kind of that idea of controlling your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
right? And, that ties a little bit into what we talked about last week about those ideas about controlling your emotions, right? I mean, if we were to go off of the CBT model or whatnot, right?
Right.
That the idea that thoughts precede emotions, which then precede behaviors.
Right.
And so naturally, I guess, if we're utilizing that model, if we're wanting to make a change occur, well, you're better off trying to change it from the very get-go than trying to make it change later.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Down that road. So I guess what do you find is helpful in understanding or even knowing how to control one's thoughts?
Well, in essence, everything we brought to this point so far is it. First, they identified it. So that means that's a thought that's already out there. Second, they're reviewing that thought. They're reviewing the process. That's now making that thought become obsessed, an obsessional thought where they're thinking about it constantly,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're a baker, you're constantly looking at what you're going to bake. If you want to be fit, that's the wrong site to be looking at, right? Yeah. You got to think differently. You got to think differently about food. You got to think differently about, exercise. If you want to be a banker, you got to think differently about money than the way other people do it. So you're going to be introducing new influences into your life,
right?
That are going to start occupying that space that was once occupied by other thoughts that were contrary to what your new goal is.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. So I guess I'm curious, how do you help balance that idea with, obsession and thought, right? And it being healthy, right? Because, I mean, as you know, when it comes to mental health, there's many different, I guess you'd say disorders, issues, whatever we want to call them, that are characterized by the dysfunction that occurs from that over-obsessiveness regarding certain things, right? Whether it's any sort of body dysmorphia,
right,
or OCD in any shape or form, or hoarding, whatever it might be, right? So how would you help someone delineate, like, what is a healthy amount of obsession and what's maybe too much?
Mm-hmm. Well, to me, that's a very fine line. And I don't know if I would be the wisest person to answer that. And it's not really a cop-out. But take, my obsession with, building things and that stuff. Like, it is, to a lot of people, they're going to say, well, that's unhealthy. But it's only unhealthy because in their context, it doesn't feel good to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's good. It's the right path for me. So to answer your question more thoroughly, I guess I would say is I'd explore it with my clients. If they start neglecting other important aspects of their life, and or their obsession is now damaging their health in a way that is, going beyond what can, within the physical limits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I would start having that conversation. You got to monitor it. Every one of us has to, but that's still part of owning your thoughts. Every one of us at the end of the day is only accountable to us.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't be honest with ourselves about where our goals are taking us, if we're not paying attention to those around us, the damage in the wake of, the SS Dwayne, then we're going to have a problem. But if people are able to really be able to look at their goal, and if they're seeing good things coming in their life, maybe flourishing new relationships, maybe they're attaining the wealth that they want or the health that they're aiming for,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not a wake of destruction in the path, and if it's kind of, there's no one right answer. People need to be able to determine that for themselves. And so I spend a lot of time exploring it. I rarely give my clients a solid answer. There's a few solid no's, like, I want to die. Okay, well, we need to talk about that,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Should probably stop that one.
I haven't eaten in a month.
Yeah.
Right? Then we need to talk about that one. But in my world, there's very few solid absolutes and lots of right paths. Sometimes the paths are just a small little adjustment here, a small little adjustment there. But it's their thoughts that own that. If they could be honest with themselves, they will find it. I mean, take like Elon Musk. Like, he sold what, PayPal for what, $90 million or something like that, was his portion. And he took 45 million of that, put it into the Tesla. And people would say, well, that's obscene. And he's like, well, no, I have a goal. My goal is to make the world a better place. Well, after that 45 million was eaten up, he needed more money. So he started throwing more millions at it. And by the time he, almost was completely bankrupt at $90 million, Tesla started to find the results they wanted.
Yeah.
And so to me, that shows that most people say you're crazy. But he had that goal and he worked toward it. He didn't sacrifice his ideals to get there. He kept working. And the result is he got that money back and more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But which is also another one of those hiccups along the way of owning our thoughts. A lot of change starts when we start off with tons of energy because we're like, yes, I got to do this, 5 a.m. I'm at the gym, whatever. I'm reading 5 books a week, whatever it may be. But then it's the problem is that, by, February 14th, Valentine's Day, they're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
The burnout starts to happen. How do people own their mind from that point forward? How do you see them pushing through? How did Elon be able to do that in his world? To be like, oh crap, I just spent $90 million and I'm bankrupt, and not worry about it. To me, that's the goal that I want my clients to get to, and they do get to. But how do they push through those dark moments when things feel hard?
Well, I think you bring up something that's really important that I would think a good place to start is a person's willingness to at least be honest with themselves regarding it, right? Regarding where they've gotten themselves and also what the thoughts are that they're having, right? Because if we're not willing to take responsibility, take ownership, and be honest with ourselves regarding what our struggles may be, what we're not doing versus what we are doing, then we're going to find ourselves in some pretty deep water, right? And I think that it's important to, I guess the way I look at it, right, is that if you aren't willing to be honest with yourself regarding something that needs to be fixed or needs to be changed, well, you're not going to do anything about it, right? Because you don't see it as a problem.
Right.
And so being able or willing to own your thought, your feeling, whatever it might be, is going to at least get you going to where you need to be.
Right. So you're entering the pre-contemplative stage into the contemplative stage of change, right? Into the motivational part, right?
Yeah.
Now we're in the action part. We're seeing results. Like people typically can lose 5-10 pounds relatively easy before they plateau, right? And then they hit the plateau. How do they endure through those plateaus? What motivates them through that?
Well, what have you found that's been helpful for you? Because when I think about it, right, again, coming to the weight and stuff like that, it's honestly just persistence and patience and sticking with it.
To me, that's why you have to have it obsessional. If it's anything less than obsessional, it becomes a wish again. This is hard. Because you're really fighting your human nature in that moment. To give up, to go back to what was easy, comfortable. the old habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking changing our habits. Habits are hard. They're fixed. They're habits. They're reflexes.
Right.
This is why having that step one clear picture, how do I want this? But it doesn't have to be just, white knuckling it, right? Say it's like a substance abuse problem. I don't need to white knuckle it only. There's always an element of that.
Right.
There always is. But if that's our only plan, then we're going to fail. To me, the best way to keep motivating it through it is you have to have your picture. You're reviewing it every day. You know your why. You're owning that thought. When doubt comes in, you got to have a voice to say, hey, shut up, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. I am going to do this. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. When people get obsessed about it and they're researching it, they're spending time and thinking about it, new ideas start coming in their minds, new ideas on how to solve it. And that energy still needs to be there to have that ability to process all that new information. Then you're going to start surrounding yourself with people. You're surrounding with people that have like-mindedness. You want people who are going to be, around for you, but who also have the same goals, the same dreams, the same hopes. Anything less than that, they're going to sink you. And that's the hard part. Like, I have read dozens and dozens of books on people who have succeeded in one way or another in this world. At some stage in their life, people who were close to them, who they thought they were good people, good friends, whatever, came to them and showed their colors and saying, you can't do this. Why are you doing this? Give up. I mean, we have the epic story of Job in the Bible, right? His wife told him, all that's left for you is to curse God and die. His friend said something similar.
Yeah.
We know from the result of Job, he persevered and he gained more light and knowledge because he held on to what he knew. That's really what that first part, step one is what do I know? Why do I know this? How am I going to do it? Then you have to condition your thoughts. Your thoughts they're not going to go easy, right?
Right.
They're not going to go way easy. But if we condition our thoughts and own them and say, look, I know I thought that way, but I'm changing it. And here's why I'm changing it. That's going to go away. If you have people in your life who are encouraging you, that's going to sustain you through those moments. But yes, there is an element of stick-to-itness, right?
Right.
And I think that part's essential. Because when people get to the end, they can stand up and say, look how hard I worked. And that's where real confidence is growing.
Yeah. And I think that, a lot of people want to get there, obviously, right? People want to be successful or they want to have it, but the things that come with that can be very difficult. And
the difference between a wish and a dream, you need the energy to get through that difficult.
And I think it comes back to that idea, right? That we have to be willing at times to own all parts of what happens, right? Whether that was the things before, the things that come during, and what might happen after. But it's recognizing that that is a choice that I'm making, and it's okay. If I feel like I'm doing the right thing, what I need to in that, then that's what I need. I do find that for people, as you mentioned, change isn't nice. It's not easy. It's often very hard. But that's because, we become comfortable with those thoughts, those feelings, even if they're bad or unhelpful. And making a change into something that is better often requires us to come face to face with what got us to that point in the first place, that we need to make a big change.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
But the reward is so worth it.
And that's what I think people lose maybe sight of, because all they see is the mountain of this is hard. But maybe they don't want, or, I guess thinking of that example of a mountain, that they often look up and they think, man, this is insurmountable, but they don't perhaps have the thought of, wow, I wonder what the view would be like from up there
Hmm.
if I made it.
Or they dream about the view, but then the first thought, that the first battle always want to change is, I can do it. I am strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
They have to change that thought. I can do this. I want this. And then they, create that picture. They have that with them. They look at it. They think about it.
Yeah.
They make plans. They research.
Mm-hmm. And that change doesn't happen in a vacuum,
No,
right?
it doesn't. It requires action. But concentrated effort is what it needs.
Yeah. And I think it'll be interesting, what you, I guess our viewers, are able to see happen if you do put those things into practice, right? I know I've been able to see it with some of my clients, the things that once they get out of the dream stage and into the action stage of actually, putting forth effort into a particular goal.
Right.
And realizing that goal, it's crazy what they end up accomplishing or continuing to accomplish, because you're right, it is very much a mindset. I have had very few clients that I feel like once they've been successful in one thing, they just want to stop there.
Right.
They want to keep going.
And I think change needs to be, and so kind of going off what you're saying is, try it. Build a picture.
Mm-hmm.
In your mind what you want. We got about 30-ish days until January 1st. Build a picture. Start creating your goals. Start researching it.
Mm-hmm.
Find support. But more importantly, start telling yourself, now I can.
Mm-hmm.
I am strong enough. I am good enough. And start taking small action steps.
Right.
And see what happens. We could talk about the barriers that come up. Sometimes barriers are just, we need to start now reviewing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And adjusting it. A plateau in weightlifting or anything else requires sometimes we shift up how we're doing our workout.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you bring up a very good point that I think a lot of people get stuck on when it comes to change, is that they feel like if I don't get it right, then that means I'm going to have to just start over.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel that that's often perhaps a viewpoint that maybe people look at life maybe more as a race rather than a journey.
Right.
Because, I think, for example, in a marathon, I mean, if someone trips and falls, it's not like, oh, dang it, got to go start over again.
Right.
Right. No, it's pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get going again. Right.
The illusion of square one is such a falsehood. We're never back at square one because we're different people.
Yeah.
Our experiences are different.
Right. So if you do set a goal, or you are trying to make a big change, it's helpful to just look at it as that. This is a journey. I can't tell you how many times I had clients when I worked with addictions that they would get so upset when they relapsed or something like that, right? Because then they'd be like, oh, I'm back to day one. And it's like, not necessarily.
But see, day one is a number, not a mindset.
Yeah.
It could be day 1008, but the mindset is different between, if for someone who makes it to 1008, that mindset was the same on day one as it is on day 1008.
Mm-hmm.
It had energy.
Yeah.
At the beginning to maintain it. Now at 1008, it might have more solidified energy.
Right.
But either way, it's a mindset. Day one, they knew they could do it. They fought that doubt, I couldn't do it.
Right.
They didn't come up with excuses. It's a mindset. They owned their thoughts. And so we'd love to hear feedback. Where are you struggling? Thoughts on how you might have ideas. Change is a long, long topic. I mean, there are books and books on it, and we'd be happy to work on it. I think this would be something we could talk about a lot on. But just try it. If you like what you hear, we're glad you're listening. Please stay. This is fun for me and Chris. We love to, I enjoy just, processing our lives and our clients and the stuff here. And I hope it's all helpful to you.
Yeah.
But until next time, follow us on Facebook, Instagram,
Yep.
right?
We're all there.
We're all there.
Yeah.
And thanks for watching.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week.